The avoidant is walking away from someone objectively attractive, someone other people notice and desire, someone whose physical appeal should make the avoidant want to hold on tighter, but instead, the attractiveness is making the avoidant run faster. This seems completely backwards to anyone observing from the outside. Shouldn't being with someone attractive make the avoidant feel lucky? Shouldn't physical appeal create more investment in the relationship? Shouldn't attractiveness be an advantage that helps the relationship survive? But with avoidance, attractiveness creates specific psychological responses that actually accelerate their withdrawal rather than preventing it. The avoidant doesn't leave despite your attractiveness. In many cases, they're leaving partially because of it. The attractiveness that seems like it should be a protective factor is actually exacerbating every fear the avoidant already has about intimacy, about vulnerability, about losing control, about your good looks aren't saving the relationship. They're creating additional layers of threat that the avoidance nervous system is responding to with the only strategy it knows: creating distance and eventually leaving entirely. Understanding why avoidants leave attractive people requires understanding that the avoidance relationship decisions aren't made rationally. They're not weighing pros and cons and deciding whether someone is worth keeping based on objective qualities like physical attractiveness. They're operating from a fear-based nervous system that's constantly scanning for threat, and attractiveness creates specific threats that activate the avoidance defenses in powerful ways. The attractive person represents social proof that the relationship matters, that other people want what the avoidant has, that losing this person would be visible failure. The attractiveness creates external validation that the relationship is valuable, which paradoxically makes the avoidant more likely to sabotage it, because external validation activates their fear of dependency and their need to prove they don't need anyone's approval or anyone's presence to be complete. The avoidant leaving attractive people also reveals something crucial about what drives their relationship choices. Fear is always stronger than desire. The avoidant might desire the attractive person. They might be physically drawn to them, might enjoy being seen with them, might appreciate their looks, but fear of vulnerability, fear of loss, fear of inadequacy, fear of losing control, these fears are more powerful than any desire the attractiveness creates. When fear and desire compete in the avoidance psychology, fear wins every single time, and attractive people create intensified versions of all the fears the avoidant is already carrying, which means attractive people are often the first to be discarded, despite seeming like they should be the last. The threat of competition and insecurity. When the avoidant is with someone physically attractive, someone other people notice and desire, their internal sense of insecurity is activated constantly. The avoidant is watching other people look at their partner with interest or desire. They're aware that attractive people have options, that their partner could leave them for someone else at any moment. This awareness creates anxiety that the avoidant has no healthy way to manage. Secure people might respond to a partner's attractiveness by appreciating that they chose you, by feeling fortunate that someone desirable wants to be with you. But avoidants respond to their partner's attractiveness by becoming hypervigilant about loss, by preparing for inevitable abandonment, by protecting themselves preemptively from the pain of being left. The competitive threat isn't just about actual other people pursuing the attractive partner, it's about the avoidant's internal comparison between themselves and what they imagine the attractive person could have. The avoidant is thinking their attractive partner could do better, could find someone more emotionally available, more consistent, more capable of meeting their needs. This thought becomes obsessive. The avoidant is constantly aware they're not enough for someone so attractive, that the attractive person is settling for them, that it's only a matter of time before the attractive person realizes they deserve better and leaves. This anticipatory anxiety about abandonment is so intense that the avoidant leaves first to avoid the pain of being left. The attractiveness also creates jealousy in the avoidant that they have no framework for managing. Jealousy requires vulnerability. It requires admitting you care enough about someone that the thought of losing them to someone else creates pain. But avoidants are terrified of admitting care, terrified of showing vulnerability. So the jealousy gets suppressed and it comes out sideways. The avoidant becomes critical of their partner's appearance or the attention the partner receives. They withdraw emotionally to protect themselves from the jealousy they won't acknowledge. They create distance to avoid feeling the possessiveness that jealousy creates. Eventually, the suppressed jealousy combined with fear of loss becomes overwhelming, and the avoidant leaves to escape feelings they can't process or express. The competitive threat is also about the avoidant's own self-esteem issues. Most avoidants carry deep core shame about their inadequacy. They don't believe they're enough, don't trust they're lovable, don't think they deserve good things. When they're with someone attractive, someone who could clearly have other options, the relationship becomes a constant reminder of their own perceived inadequacy. The attractive partner's presence highlights everything the avoidant believes is wrong with themselves. Rather than dealing with these painful self-perceptions, rather than working on their self-esteem, the avoidant leaves the relationship that's activating the pain. The attractive person doesn't deserve to be left, but they're being left because their presence makes the avoidant feel inadequate in ways the avoidant can't tolerate. The fear of losing something too valuable. The avoidant operates from a principle that's deeply irrational but psychologically powerful. The more something matters, the more terrifying it is to have. When the avoidant is with someone attractive, someone they recognize as desirable and valuable, the relationship matters more than relationships with people they're less attracted to. The attractive person represents something precious, something worth having, something the avoidant actually values. And this value is precisely what makes it terrifying. The more the avoidant values the attractive person, the more devastating it would be to lose them. And the avoidant psychology is organized around avoiding devastating loss by never having anything too valuable in the first place. This fear of losing something valuable creates preemptive sabotage. The avoidant looks at their attractive partner and thinks about how much it would hurt to lose them. They imagine the attractive person leaving for someone better, imagine themselves being abandoned by someone they care about, imagine the pain of that abandonment. And rather than experiencing that pain later when the loss actually happens, the avoidant creates the loss now when they can control it. They leave the attractive person before the attractive person can leave them. They destroy the valuable relationship before it can be taken from them. It's completely irrational, but it's how the avoidance fear-based psychology operates. Losing something you destroy yourself feels more controllable than losing something that's taken from you. The attractive person also represents higher stakes than less attractive partners. The avoidant recognizes that being in relationship with someone attractive means there's more to lose. Social reputation is at stake. The validation of being chosen by someone desirable is at stake. The self-esteem boost that comes from having an attractive partner is at stake. All of these things make the relationship more important, and increased importance means increased fear for the avoidant. They'd rather be in low-stakes relationships where loss doesn't matter as much than high-stakes relationships, where loss would be publicly visible and personally devastating. The fear of losing something valuable also means the avoidant can't relax into the relationship. They're constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop, for the attractive person to realize they can do better and leave. This anticipatory anxiety prevents the avoidant from being present, from enjoying what they have, from investing in building something with the attractive person. The avoidant is so focused on protecting themselves from future loss that they can't participate in present connection. And the inability to be present makes the relationship unsatisfying for both people, which creates a self-fulfilling prophecy where the avoidant's fear of loss creates the conditions that lead to loss, the pressure of maintaining someone attractive. The avoidant experiences relationship with an attractive person as pressure they can't sustain. There's pressure to be attractive enough themselves to deserve the attractive partner. Pressure to perform well enough to keep someone who has options. Pressure to be emotionally available enough that the attractive person doesn't leave for someone more capable. Pressure to meet all the attractive person's needs because failing to meet those needs means the attractive person will find someone who can. All of this pressure is overwhelming for the avoidant who already struggles with relationship demands even in low-pressure situations. The pressure also includes managing other people's reactions to the attractive partner. The avoidant is aware that others notice their partner's attractiveness, that people comment on it, that there's social attention that comes with having an attractive partner. Managing this attention feels burdensome. The avoidant has to deal with jealousy they won't admit to having. They have to navigate social situations where others are clearly interested in their partner. They have to maintain relationship boundaries in face of competition they don't feel equipped to handle. All of this social management creates stress that the avoidant associates with the relationship itself, making the relationship feel like more work than it's worth. The avoidant also feels pressure to maintain the attractive person's interest. Attractive people can be selective. They have options. The avoidant knows this, and it creates performance anxiety. The avoidant feels they have to constantly prove themselves worthy of someone so attractive. They have to be interesting enough, successful enough, emotionally available enough to keep someone who could easily find alternatives. This constant need to prove worthiness is exhausting, and exhaustion leads to resentment. The avoidant begins resenting the attractive person for making them feel inadequate, for creating pressure, for requiring effort to keep. And resentment makes leaving feel justified. The pressure of maintaining someone attractive also conflicts with the avoidant's need for ease and comfort in relationships. The avoidant wants relationships that feel effortless, that don't require them to stretch or grow or work hard. But relationship with someone attractive requires effort just to keep up, to stay interesting, to remain worthy in the avoidant's perception. The gap between the ease the avoidant wants and the effort they believe the attractive person requires becomes unbearable. The avoidant leaves not because the attractive person is actually demanding, but because maintaining them feels demanding in the avoidant's anxious mind. The inability to believe they're truly chosen. The avoidant cannot believe that someone attractive would genuinely choose them for who they are. This disbelief is rooted in the avoidant's core shame and poor self-concept. The avoidant sees the attractive person's interest and immediately questions it. What's wrong with this person that they're interested in me? What aren't they seeing about me that they'll eventually discover? When will they realize they made a mistake choosing me? The avoidant can't take the attractive person's choice at face value because doing so would require believing they're valuable, lovable, enough, and the avoidant fundamentally doesn't believe these things about themselves. This disbelief creates constant second guessing of the relationship. The avoidant is waiting for the attractive person to wake up and realize they deserve better. They're watching for signs that interest is waning, that attraction is fading, that the attractive person is starting to see the avoidant's flaws clearly. Every normal relationship fluctuation is interpreted through this lens of anticipated rejection. If the attractive person is slightly distant one day, the avoidant thinks they're realizing they made a mistake. If the attractive person seems preoccupied, the avoidant assumes they're thinking about someone else. The constant interpretation of neutral events as signs of impending abandonment makes the relationship feel unstable in ways that have nothing to do with the attractive person's actual behavior. The avoidant also can't trust the attractive person's expressions of care or commitment. When the attractive person says they love the avoidant thinks they're lying or deluded or just haven't realized the truth yet. When the attractive person demonstrates loyalty, the avoidant thinks it's temporary, that it won't last, that eventually the attractive person will leave like the avoidant expects everyone to leave. This inability to receive and trust the attractive person's genuine feelings makes real intimacy impossible because the avoidant is always defended against believing they're truly wanted. The disbelief that they're truly chosen also makes the avoidant sabotage to test the attractive person. If the avoidant can't believe they're chosen, they'll test whether the choice is real by behaving in ways that should make the attractive person leave. The avoidant becomes cold, distant, inconsistent. They're essentially asking, will you stay even when I'm difficult? Will you choose me even when I'm not at my best? Will you love me even when I'm being unlovable? But these tests are designed to fail. The avoidant is creating conditions that would make anyone leave. And when the attractive person finally does leave, the avoidant gets to say they were right all along. They knew the attractive person would eventually abandon them. The self-fulfilling prophecy is complete. The avoidant's need to prove independence. The avoidant has particular need to prove their independence when with an attractive partner. Being with someone attractive creates appearance of dependency. It looks like the avoidant needs the attractive person, values them, is lucky to have them. And this appearance contradicts the avoidant's entire identity as someone who doesn't need anyone. The avoidant becomes defensive about maintaining their independence, specifically because the attractive partner's presence creates social narrative that the avoidant is dependent on or lucky to have this person. To combat this narrative, to prove they're not dependent, the avoidant emphasizes their autonomy, creates distance, and ultimately leaves to demonstrate they don't need anyone no matter how attractive or desirable that person is. The need to prove independence manifests as the avoidant being particularly withholding with attractive partners. They're less affectionate, less available, less invested than they might be with someone less attractive. The withholding is the avoidant's way of proving to themselves and others that the attractive person hasn't captured them, hasn't made them dependent, hasn't compromised their autonomy. The more attractive the person, the more the avoidant feels they need to demonstrate they're unbothered, unimpressed, capable of walking away at any moment. This performance of independence destroys intimacy and eventually destroys the relationship itself. The avoidant also proves independence by maintaining other options, even while with the attractive person. They might keep dating profiles active. They might maintain flirtatious friendships. They might talk about other people they could date. All of this is the avoidant proving they're not dependent on the attractive person, that they have alternatives, that losing the attractive person wouldn't devastate them. The maintaining of options is insurance against feeling too attached, but it also prevents the avoidant from being fully present in the relationship. You can't build genuine intimacy with someone who's constantly reminding themselves and you that they could leave at any moment. The ultimate proof of independence is leaving. The avoidant leaves the attractive person to demonstrate they're capable of it, to prove the attractive person didn't have the power over them that everyone assumed they had. The leaving is the avoidant saying, "See, I don't need anyone, not even someone this attractive and desirable. I'm fine alone. I can walk away from something good because I'm independent enough not to need it." This need to prove independence by destroying something valuable is tragic, but it's core to how avoidant psychology operates. The avoidant would rather lose something precious than admit they need it. The attractive person as mirror of everything they can't be. The attractive person often represents qualities the avoidant wishes they had, but believes they don't. The attractive person might be confident in ways the avoidant isn't. They might be socially skilled where the avoidant is awkward. They might be emotionally available in ways the avoidant can't access. The attractive person becomes living mirror, reflecting all the avoidant's perceived inadequacies, and being around this mirror is painful. The avoidant starts to resent the attractive person, not for anything they're doing, but for representing everything the avoidant wishes they were, but believes they can't be. The mirror effect creates comparison that's damaging to the avoidant's already fragile self-esteem. The avoidant looks at the attractive person's ease in social situations and feels inadequate about their own social anxiety. They notice how the attractive person handles emotions openly and feel shame about their own emotional repression. They see how the attractive person attracts positive attention and feel invisible in comparison. Every quality that makes the attractive person attractive highlights corresponding deficiency the avoidant perceives in themselves. The relationship becomes source of pain rather than joy because it's constant reminder of everything the avoidant believes is wrong with them. The avoidant responds to this painful mirroring by devaluing the attractive person. They start focusing on flaws. They criticize the very qualities they were initially attracted to. They diminish the attractive person's worth to make themselves feel less inadequate in comparison. This devaluation is defensive, protecting the avoidant's fragile ego by tearing down the person who's highlighting their insecurities. But devaluation also makes leaving easier. If the avoidant can convince themselves the attractive person isn't that great, isn't that special, isn't worth staying for, then leaving doesn't feel like loss. It feels like escape from relationship that was making them feel bad about themselves. The attractive person as mirror also highlights the avoidant's fear that they can't grow or change. The attractive person represents who the avoidant might become if they did their work. More confident, more emotionally available, more comfortable in their own skin. But growth requires facing pain, requires therapy, requires vulnerability the avoidant is terrified of. So instead of using the attractive person as inspiration for their own growth, the avoidant leaves to avoid the painful confrontation with their own potential. It's easier to leave than to face everything the attractive person's presence is asking them to examine about themselves. The social visibility that creates performance anxiety. Being in relationship with someone attractive makes the relationship more socially visible. People notice attractive couples. They comment on them. They're curious about the relationship. This visibility creates performance anxiety for the avoidant who desperately wants to avoid scrutiny. The avoidant doesn't want their relationship examined, questioned, or commented on. They want privacy and invisibility. But having an attractive partner makes invisibility impossible. The relationship becomes public in ways the avoidant can't control, and loss of control over social perception creates anxiety that makes the avoidant want to exit the relationship entirely. The visibility also creates pressure to maintain the relationship. When you're with someone attractive, people assume the relationship is going well because why would you leave someone so desirable? This social assumption creates expectation that the avoidant experiences as pressure. They feel obligated to stay in relationship that others admire. They feel they'll be judged if they leave someone everyone can see as attractive. This pressure to maintain the relationship based on external perception makes the avoidant want to rebel against that pressure by leaving specifically to prove they're not controlled by social expectations. The avoidant also experiences the attractive partner's social attention as threat. The attractive person gets noticed, gets approached, gets social validation that the avoidant doesn't receive. This creates imbalance in the relationship where one person is more socially valued than the other. The avoidant feels diminished standing next to someone whose attractiveness draws all the attention. They feel like accessory to the attractive person rather than equal partner. This feeling of being less than, of being in the shadow of someone more socially valued, creates resentment that contributes to the avoidant's decision to leave. The social visibility of being with an attractive person also means the eventual breakup will be more visible and therefore more embarrassing. The avoidant is already anticipating this embarrassment, even while the relationship is ongoing. They're thinking about how people will react when the relationship ends, what people will say, whether people will judge them for losing someone so attractive. This anticipatory embarrassment makes the avoidant want to leave before they're too visibly attached, before the relationship is too established, before the ending becomes a major social event. The leaving is partially about avoiding future social shame, the pattern that transcends individual attractiveness. It's important to understand that while this pattern is about avoidance leaving attractive people, it's not actually about the attractive person themselves. The avoidant would have these same fears and create the same distance regardless of who they're with. Attractive people simply amplify fears the avoidant carries into every relationship. The core issues are the avoidant's fear of vulnerability, fear of loss, fear of inadequacy, fear of dependency. These fears exist independent of the partner's attractiveness. Attractive partners just make these pre-existing fears more acute, more difficult to ignore, more urgent to defend against. The avoidant leaves attractive people for the same reason they leave everyone eventually. They're terrified of intimacy and they haven't done the work to heal their attachment wounds. The attractiveness is just one more factor that triggers fear that was going to be triggered anyway. If the attractive person were less attractive, the avoidant would find different reasons to leave. They'd focus on different incompatibilities. They'd create different justifications. The pattern of leaving would remain the same because the pattern is driven by the avoidant's internal psychology, not by the partner's qualities. Understanding this helps attractive people who've been left by avoidance recognize the leaving wasn't their fault. It wasn't because they were too attractive or not attractive enough. It wasn't because they had too many options or intimidated the avoidant. It wasn't because of anything they did or didn't do. The leaving was inevitable because the avoidant wasn't ready for relationship with anyone, and attractiveness just provided convenient focus for fears that would have manifested regardless. The attractive person deserves better than someone who experiences their value as threat rather than gift, and being left by an avoidant is ultimately protection from wasting more time with someone incapable of appreciating or reciprocating what was being offered. The avoidant leaves attractive people, and the leaving reveals the avoidant's limitations rather than the attractive person's worth. Attractiveness that should be advantage becomes liability in relationship with someone too defended to receive anything good. But for the attractive person being left, the leaving is ultimately gift. It's clarity that this person can't meet your needs. It's freedom from trying to make yourself smaller or less threatening to accommodate someone's fear. It's release from relationship where your value is experienced as burden rather than blessing. The avoidant will continue leaving attractive people until they heal their core wounds, and the attractive people they leave will continue thriving once they're freed from relationships where their greatest assets were treated as threats.